Going to step number 4, which is the pre-trip. Pre-trip is very crucial for us because, again, we go to 3 weight stations or 3 scales every day. We have no room for error, so we want to make sure that drivers are trained. And again, drivers will be trained on performing a daily pre-trip, post-trip report under DVIR, which means Driver Vehicle Inspection Report. We also cover a video presentation with them because they need to take a test on pre-trip and post-trip. And some of the areas that we cover on the pre-trip inspection is checking tires, leaks, lights, etc. There's a lot of different types of components that they need to understand. The biggest thing also is consistency, that we pre-trip every vehicle the same, where we start and where we end on a daily basis. On the road inspection, every 50 miles or next stop, we want to make sure that they go to do what we call a walk around. It's a routine walk around. So after every 50 miles, we want to make sure these drivers are walking around their vehicle. At the end of the day, a post-trip inspection. Basically, we cover same items as pre-trip, except items that are hot or items that are affected by heat, like the manifold, you don't want to open the radiator or anything that's hot, exhaust systems. Those are the only things we don't check on a post-trip. Now, keep in mind that any defects that are found, they must be reported to their immediate supervisor and complete a DVIR document. Roadside inspections and out-of-service violations, we want to make sure this is the time that we train drivers. What's going to happen when they get pulled over for a roadside inspection? That could be done at the scale, or one of our law enforcement officers can pull them over to do a level 2 inspection or a level 3 inspections. And how to handle of the out-of-service violations. What do we do and what are the procedures that they need to follow? One of the other things is to make sure that you have a file systems to keep records of all the pre-trip and post-trip inspections. Some contractors are still doing this manual. They have a manual sheet and they keep it on file. For many of us, we may have an app through a third-party vendor that we subscribe so that we could do our pre-trips and post-trips through an app, whether it's through our cell phones or through the scanner. This is just an example of what a pre-trip, post-trip manual inspection will look like. The other thing that we want to make sure we cover here is where at the bottom, if they found any defects, that vehicle cannot be put on the road the next day until a mechanic has fixed the problem and signed off, and the driver who should be driving the vehicle tomorrow will also need to sign off. Now, there are some items that we could do ourselves, like if it's just a headlight that was burned out, yes, we could go to AutoZone, we could buy a new headlight and we could put it ourselves. We don't need a certified mechanic for that. But it has to be listed on the pre-trip and post-trip that is being fixed and corrected and signed off by whoever installed that new light, just to make sure that also the driver inspects it and sign off. Everything has to be signed off before that vehicle could go back on the road. Step number 5, safety meetings. Now, these safety meetings, we want to have those either weekly. For us, it's weekly. It could be bi-weekly. But make sure we're having some sort of safety meeting. So the meetings are set up to discuss issues that can affect the driver's safety, our customer, and the motoring public. The most important thing we want to do is set our goals. We want to make sure that we train drivers to protect themselves and to be safe on the motoring public, to take care of our customer, and to take care of other drivers out on the road. That's the goal that we want to have to train average drivers to become professional drivers. My main goal with my company is to make sure that every driver make it home safe every night. So some of the things we want to cover on a safety weekly meeting is safety tips, tip of the day. Also, we want to make sure that we cover about banking, seat belts, weather, etc. So every day, we want to come up with a certain tip, whether it's just seat belts, whether it's turning lights on because of bad weather, no backing, making sure they got medical cards in their possession. So there's always going to be a tip of the day or even goal, get out and look. So every day we want to come up with something and get creative with different types of tips of the day that you can come up with. At that point of having our safety meeting, we also want to discuss some issues that have to do with service, like dispute deliveries, early, late, or missed pickups, and customer complaints. That would be a perfect time while we're discussing in our safety meeting about issues to keep our drivers safe behind the wheel and safe on the motoring public. For us, we do something a little bit more. We do what we call random gate checks. What we do is a random, my drivers will never know. Some days I stand by the gate, and I sometimes, if it's in the summertime, I put a little pop-up tent and have some Gatorade, maybe have some protein bars. But as my vehicles are leaving the facility, we may have a gate check for seatbelts. We may have a gate check for phones, for medical cards, for lights, for tires, whatever it is, but it's just one item. And we want to make sure that we're checking. We have an example here, a couple of pictures. On this particular picture, we were checking that day for medical cards. Make sure they have the medical card in their possession. Now, on this particular day that we did this, and I use this for an example, out of my 14 drivers that were leaving the premises or leaving the facility, out of 14, 3 did not have a medical card in their possession. 2 of them left it at home, and 1 left it in his personal vehicle. So we wanted to make sure that before they go on the motoring public, whether their wife brought it to them, whether they had to go home and pick it up, but we had to make sure that they had the medical card in their possession. So it's important that we do some sort of inspection or gate check, or you may want to do something different, but let's cover a lot of these items like license, medical cards, to make sure that they do have them in their possessions. One of the things we like to do with our safety meetings, we also like to give out safety messages. This is optional what we do, but we like to, from time to time, give out some candy bars. And we put a safety message on the candy bar, packs of gum, Gatorade. It could be other items that you might want to do, but we also do like protein bars. But when we give something to our employees, we want to make sure we have some sort of safety message. Like we'll put their goal, get out and look, and we talk a little bit about backing. Or we could put seatbelts. Seatbelts is proven to save lives. Whatever message, whatever tip of the day, whatever message you want to put out there. Give them something, but let's not just give them candy bar, but put some sort of safety message on the item that you're giving the actual employee. And 6, always make sure that we keep our safety meetings, minutes, agendas in a file system, whether you could put it in paper or you could keep it online in a dashboard, but make sure we're keeping all this information. And also make sure you have an attendance record of who showed up that day for that meeting with all the topics that were covered, because you never know. Later on, you might need to use that if for some reason we have to let a driver go for safety issues. And the driver may say, well, nobody ever trained me on that particular area. And you say, yes, we did. We covered it in safety meetings. And you could pull those safety meetings and you could pull the attendance record to see that he was actually at that meeting. So it's important that we keep attendance records and we keep all the meetings on file for all the safety meetings that you have with all your employees. This is one of my safety meeting attendance record. I just have all the names of my drivers there, and they find their names, sign it. In the top, we put the title of the safety meeting. We also put the date. The instructor, was it myself, was it one of my PCs that actually conducted the safety meeting, and what topic that we had, whether adverse weather, was it tires, whatever we were covering in the safety meeting, maybe accidents, report accidents, within the window that we have, or whatever topics you want to have there. But in the top, we put our safety meeting and under title. And again, keep this on file because you never know if you need to pull this out, especially for evaluations. We want to make sure that we have a safety meeting attendant record at all times. You just never know if you need to pull this out and use it. Step number 6 is now what we call a safety training class. Now, step 5 is a safety meeting. We want to make sure we have safety meetings. We conduct them weekly. But now step number 6, safety training class, we want to make sure that drivers are going to safety training classes. I know through the identification, we have where we do 2 videos every week for our drivers, and that's just to be in compliance with FedEx. But we should also have other type of training material that we need to use to train drivers on defensive driving, distracted driving, other source of material that we need to keep our drivers safe out in the motor public. So these 4 steps here, number 1 is all driver must participate in a monthly safety video training, which is identification compliance program, which is broken down weekly. Number 2, safety video series. This is an add-on that we have of a library of safety training material. It's a training program with an employee workbook and a test follow-up. Again, even these classes, make sure that you have an attendant record. Keep a file of all those that attended these classes, all the participants, because you never know again if you need to pull this information and use it for something that the driver says, I was never trained in this area. And again, number 4, file systems or website to keep track of all driver's license, medical cards, expiration dates, and employee safety tests. Most contractors now have a way where they know when the medical card is going to expire, when their driver's license are going to expire, but it's very crucial that our employees know ahead of time, hey, your driver's license is going to expire in a month. We're giving you that information so you can start planning to go renew your driver's license. Or your medical card is going to expire in a month or in a couple of weeks. Make sure that we schedule where they're going to have the time to go and renew their medical card. The last thing we want is for them not to be aware and they cannot clock in a scanner because their medical card expired. So it's crucial that we need to have a file system or a website that we may use to be able to track down license and medical cards so that we can make sure that drivers will know ahead of time when their license or medical card is going to expire. So this was just a manual. Now we're using a website that gives us all that information. But back in the day, we had something manually. And this was the information that we had, that we were using week by week, month by month, to make sure that our drivers were not getting to the last day and we find out that their medical card is going to expire tomorrow. But now we have a website that we use. Makes things a little bit easier because it will give us alert when our driver's medical card or license is going to expire. Now, some of the classes that we have, the extra add-on classes, this is just one of the tests, and one of the topics, traffic violations and CDL disqualification. It's 10 questions, and this is a test that all my drivers have to pass every month. So every month we have a different type of training program with them. And on top of that, we still have the identification, which is 2 videos, which is 5-minute videos that they go through twice a week. And also with a question that they have to answer. So some of the material that we're using for our safety training class all starts with CSA video training. So CSA video training is a program created to educate drivers about defensive driving by using a variety of various materials training such as CSA 2010, 7 Basics. 7 Basics provides a generalization of unsafe driving, driver fitness, vehicle maintenance, and drug and alcohol regulations, etc. Driver vehicle inspection. This is the other video that we go through, or other topics. Overviews the process of pre-trip, post-trip, and on-the-road inspections. Again, for us, this is crucial that our drivers need to go through this program before we put them behind the wheel, because we go to 3 weigh stations every day, and we go through between 40 and 60 roadside inspections every year. Roadside inspection gives a detailed explanation for the 6 different levels of inspections. It's important that our driver understand when they get pulled over for either random inspections or for any kind of inspections, that they understand what's going to take place, that they understand the procedures they need to do, make sure they call their immediate supervisor, especially if they find defects, or especially if they pull their vehicle out of service. What are the procedures that we need to go through? What are the things that we need to understand? So this roadside inspection gives us a whole complete training of all the different inspections and how to pass inspections by doing all the right things. I am defensive driving. This is so important because, especially in today's time, we are face to face with so many distracted drivers out in the motoring public. There's a lot of drivers out in the motoring public that could be texting while driving, could be drunk drivers out on the road, or just drivers not paying attention. So we are dealing with a lot of those drivers out there. So it's crucial that we train our drivers on defensive driving. So defensive driving goes over the importance of seeing and being seen, having height awareness, managing speed and space, and having the right attitude. Distracted driving is so important because we need to make sure that as we hire new drivers, that they understand that distraction can get us hurt. It's important that they need to understand not to text, use their cell phone, or play around with the radio while driving our vehicles. Also, there's other types of distractions like cognitive, manual, and visual distractions that can put us in harm's way. And also to identify other drivers that are distracted in front of us, or in behind our vehicles, or in our surroundings. So this video, Distracted Driving, explains the 3 types of distractions, including visual, physical, and mental distraction, which is cognitive. And again, it's a training program that will train our drivers to drive our vehicles not to be distracted while they're on delivery and while they're in the motoring public, out in our roadways, whether it's highways, commercial areas, residential. We want to make sure that our drivers are focused on the road. So this particular training here is so important to keep our drivers away from harm, or from them to harming others. Again, our goal is to make sure that all of our drivers make it home safe every day. Injury prevention for drivers. Analyze the vital injuries that can be costly for any business, such as lifting, driving, and 3 points of contact. Any type of injury is very, very expensive. We want to make sure that we train our drivers how to lift boxes, how to enter their vehicles. The last thing we want to have is through workers' comp having too many claims, worker comp claims of any kind of injuries. Our run loss reports are going to go up very high, and it's going to be very expensive for us. So it's important that we train our drivers how to prevent themselves from different types of injuries. We want to make sure that they understand how to exit and enter their vehicles. Lifting is so important because all day long we're lifting boxes, using their dollies out in the road. And again, we want to make sure that drivers understand even about buckling up. Because, and this part of training that we do through this video, it even talks about that those drivers, like, just to give an example, driving a P1000, if they don't put a seatbelt on and they're going through a bumpy road, they have the potential to strain their back because they have to grab the steering wheel very firm so they won't bounce off the seat. So for that reason, they're really putting a lot of strain in their back. If they could buckle up and be safe on the seat, that's one less thing they have to do. Part of our training here is just to make sure that drivers understand that injuries don't just happen overnight. Injuries is a consistent problem that they're doing wrong for a matter of days, matter of weeks, until finally the back snaps or their knee, or if they're not exiting their vehicles properly, that one day they could twist their ankle because they landed on unsafe or uneven surface. So it's important that we train drivers so that they could be safe out on the road, but also how to prevent injuries. The last thing we want is for a driver to get injured or get hurt. Now he's going to be out for a couple of days, and now we're down a driver. So it's important that we train drivers in injury prevention. Alcohol and drug testing describes the procedures or the process of doing pre-employment testing as well as random and post-accident. Our drivers need to understand that when they get hired here, driving any vehicle over 10,001 pounds, they must require a drug screen. We also put our drivers through a random drug screen program that they need to understand that is a compliance and it's FMCSA and it's mandatory that if they get picked for random drug screening, they're going to have to go get a drug screen within the first 2 hours. If they refuse to go, that's just like accepting that they're going to test positive for either drugs or for alcohol. So we have to put drivers, they need to understand. So this is a training program that's going to help us educate our drivers what they need to do. Now, if they get a DOT preventable accident, they are going to have to go and do a post-accident drug screen. So this training material prepares a driver from day one what to expect, what to know about drug testing, and possible even alcohol. And us as supervisors also, when can we take drivers even on suspicion of drug or alcohol? We need to make sure that we know and know when we could send someone to go get a drug screen. And this material will train not just our drivers, but also will train our managers on knowing everything and anything that we need to know about alcohol and drug testing under the FMCSA rules and regulations. This next video training program here, traffic violations and CDL disqualifications. Traffic violations and CDL disqualifications contains major offenses, serious traffic violations, and out-of-service orders violations. This video basically almost ties in with what we call Schedule I in our contract. What can get a driver disqualified from driving one of our vehicles? Whether it's for FedEx or whether it is that a major offense, the Highway Patrol suspended their driver's license. This is a training program that trains our drivers what are major offenses and how can we get disqualified from driving even a personal vehicle out on the road, and what is serious traffic violations, and what can get us also disqualified or where we could lose our license from driving either a commercial vehicle or a personal vehicle out in the motoring public. And to understand a little bit more about out-of-service orders and violations and how can that play a role, whether we're contracted under FedEx, or how many points can you get into your license if we're put out of service. Many times you're going to get a violation, and at the same token, you might get a citation. Now, a citation is when a driver gets a traffic ticket. They're going to either go to court to fight it, or they're just going to go pay the ticket. A citation, those points or that ticket is going to affect their driver's license. And it's going to show for the next 3 years in their driver's license. A violation has to do with CSA. A violation is points that's going to go under the CSA, but it will not affect their driver's license. But under a violation, points will be added to their CSA, which is going to stay on their record for 3 years before it wipes out clean again. So through this training, it trains our drivers to understand the difference between citations, violations, what are major offenses, And the most important thing, what can get us disqualified? This is the extra training that we have, that we use to continue to train our drivers, not just weekly, not just monthly, but our drivers need to understand how to keep themselves safe out in the motor public. We want to train average drivers to become professional drivers.